we have to acknowledge there are dumb people in this country, okay?
When you all make it look so easy, everybody thinks they can do it.
But they do have the desire to walk on the red carpet, to date who you dated, to look how you look.
They can have them.
It's over.
Chill out. It certainly has my spidey senses up about whether or not what we get from the government is true or whether there's more than meets the eye.
Speaking of Transformers, hold that thought.
I'm not as plugged in and I feel less angst.
Yeah.
I want to ask you guys how you're planning on maintaining your peace because buckle up.
I laugh at those of you who said this is going to be a 45-minute podcast.
For us to really change democracy, we are going to have to tap into those folks who didn't participate.
Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice Media.
Welcome
Home, y'all. This is episode 58 of Native Land Pod, where we give you all things politics with a little bit of culture sprinkled in there for everybody's taste. We are your host,
Tiffany Cross.
Oh, you don't want to go first? I'm Angela Rye.
and I'll go last as always. I'm Andrew Gillum.
Oh, my
and we want to say welcome home, everybody. Let's get to it.
Y'all.
So, y'all, what are we talking about today? We get to be in person, which is...
I'm happy to see y'all.
I'm happy to see you.
I think these shows are so much better when we're in person. I like it.
I definitely think they're a show. And I'm wondering...
All the shade. He just be throwing shade. I felt it. It's
I'm
fine.
just wondering, Tiff, what do you want to talk about today?
So I think people are pretty checked out of politics. I really do. Everyone I talk to, and I want to talk about how to curate peace. It's a time of year where people are with family. And as we go into a 2025 that is going to be hectic, how do we curate peace?
I love that. Curating peace. Angela.
Well, if there's no justice, there's no peace. So I'm going to stay in politics a little bit because it's it might not be bombs over Baghdad, New Jersey, but it's something flying over New Jersey. And now they're saying it might be in Atlanta too. It's the drones. I was just laughing at my dear brother Leonard about this last week. Turns out, hell. Might actually be some there.
Huh. Well, I can't wait to hear your theory of the case. For me, a lot of talk about what's Kamala's next step.
Yeah.
Madam Vice President. Obviously, she's been at the height of government in this country. Could she go down now to one of the states to lead the great state of California as its governor? I'd love to hear y'all's opinions and thoughts on it.
Okay.
So let's get at it.
Let's do it. Okay, so I think I might be the only one here that had a
run-in?
No.
Yeah, to run in with a drone.
Security clearance is all I was trying to say. But I was scared to go beyond a TS and get an SCI clearance, which is the one that goes through the CIA. Obviously, y'all know why I didn't want to go through the CIA. We have trauma with the CIA. But I am very curious about what is happening with the drones. When I did Breakfast Club last week, Secretary Pete was on, and Leonard asked him about the drones over New Jersey. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I literally was laughing because I was like, this is so ridiculous. Like, because Leonard is always talking about aliens, which is fine. They probably do exist. I'm not, shout out to the ETs of the world. But I just was saying, what was fascinating to me about this is the fact that everybody started seeing them the more they were reported. Karen, who is me and Leonard's shared manager. Me and Leonard's shared manager was a good Karen, was saying that she saw 7 in her backyard. They're like, and I was like, were they in the yard or were they like? She was like, in the sky. I was like, well, are we sure they're not stars? So I am very fascinated with
the obsession.
Yes, and also what is fact, what is fiction, what is a threat. And I'm just curious about where y'all are on it. I really don't have a thing. I just have heard from New Jersey, now they're popping up in Atlanta, and I want to know how much of it is our fear popping up, what is legit about it, and then also where some of our national security holes exist. So I want to talk about it.
Well, what is the government saying about it? I mean, what's the official line right now?
Well, here's the thing.
And I know it changes, but I'm curious, what's the latest update?
So initially, the National Security Advisor said these are manned aircrafts. Joe Biden said it was nothing to worry about. Governor Hochul in New York and Governor Murphy in New Jersey were like, we need more information. So it depends on what level of government you're at, right? And some of this is in response to your constituents. The state is like, we need to know what's really going on because this is happening for us and ain't happening in the nation's capital. So they think that they think that they're playing coy. And even Senator Booker was like, we need more information.
Interesting.
So according to the reporting, there is no definitive response on what these drones are. And I think to Angela's point, this is where you see local and state government at odds with federal government. The federal government has come out and said that according to what they've seen in their investigation, and they're talking to people, that some of these things are not even drones. Like some of these things are people seeing regular aircraft, or some of them are stars, or they have not met the definition of a drone. And honestly, if I saw something fly over my head, I don't know if I would immediately be able to recognize it as a drone. I don't know if you remember this, Angela, when we were on vacation, on Machete Vacay, there was a drone that flew over we were all sitting out by the pool, and there was a drone that flew over. So I think we have to know drones are things that people get for Christmas, you know, like they could be teenagers operating these drones if they are manned. I wanted to get my nephew a drone for Christmas. So we really don't know, but I think it is reminiscent of the spy balloon that it did turn up to be linked to China. And we do, quite frankly, have adversarial governments who are very curious about what happens here in the country. We as Black people have an innate sense of distrust with the government, of people coming out to see. And look, for all the people who are concerned that the drones are spying on us and what are they, getting from us, I just want to let you know, this right here already has a lot of the info. Right.
Throw your drone away.
Basically, this is your drone. And so, I don't want to speculate on what this is. One, I don't know. And two, we have not heard official response yet that everybody seems to agree on. Three, we cannot link this to any particular adversarial government at this time. But I just want to reflect to people, I understand why you might be concerned when you see something flying over your home. A lot of times when we've seen these things, it comes out like, oh, the military was, testing new equipment in this area. And that's been linked to a lot of the UFO sightings, So we don't know.
Yeah,
but I think that the question of Homeland Security is a legitimate one. I don't know if drones are the thing I'm most concerned about when it comes to Homeland Security, but that is definitely something that we should consider.
Or if it's even a drone.
It could be that I'm really too obsessed with this show that I'm watching right now on television.
What is
that you and I both are watching right now on television.
I know, but I want to know.
You got turned onto it late.
What is
Lioness.
it?
I knew you were going to say Lioness.
Anyway,
can I just say, I'm 3. I have not finished season 2, so please no spoilers.
I won't say any details.
Okay.
I'm simply saying that you should check it out. It's really good.
So good.
I like The Diplomat.
Should I were to believe what happens on this show, and basically like everything from the government is a bit of subterfuge, and that there's always something there, which frankly has turned out to be the case over the arc of history. Drugs, CIA connection, shows get made, and then there's a big disconnect from it. What concerns me, I think, is like the absence of definitiveness from the government. Why can't we just say these are non-threatening? And while we may not be able to identify exactly what they are, what we can rule out,
they don't know.
What we can rule out is but they were very much so prepared to tell us about not only the spy plane, but also the drones associated with it.
Right.
They knew that there were an intrusion of another foreign government surveillance apparatus in the United States atmosphere. These drones fly at such a low level. Do they evade detection? Can they be seen by American satellites that normally observes air traffic in this country? If air traffic could have been brought to a halt in this country after 9/11, if you bring air traffic to a halt right now, would drones be shot out of the sky? Would they still be allowed to move around, again, at heights that are taller than some of the largest buildings that we know in this country? So the absence of information, and again, I will attribute this to the fact that I'm obsessed with television right now that talks about the undermining of what happens
and
in our
how they
government.
manipulate the news cycle, which we've already known.
Right.
Yeah, but they will literally plant something in the news just for it to be talked about. To test the American response to it.
As an evasion.
There's also a lot of right-wing bullshit in that show that we can, it's still a good show, but I'm like, I hear you.
That being said, bullshit or not, it certainly has my spidey senses up about whether or not what we get from the government is true, or whether there's more than meets the eye.
We've always
like the Transformers. Speaking of Transformers, there's more than meets the eye. I'm just fascinated because I have been, I'm a church kid, y'all. And I've been saying it's the last and evil days, like the old saints, for a long time. So I'm like, is this some Armageddon stuff? Like, what are we on? Because it do seem like,
by the way,
I'm not saying he's the Antichrist, but it seemed like the Antichrist might have just got elected.
Yeah, so I actually have a cousin who said that when she wouldn't vote for Obama because the
Why
word
did they think he
said
was the
that he was the
Antichrist?
Antichrist. So
That was not biblically accurate. I would like to talk to
Well,
your cousin
I'm just
because he
saying-
is very clearly a white man. You can look at what part of the world
My
he's from.
grandmother told
all
me we
kinda
were
sounds
living in our last
nonsensical to me, to
days
be honest.
when I was 3.
Really?
I remember being petrified that I was going to come home and the world was going to end. But
He was going to
anyway.
be caught up in the rapture
And
or left
yeah,
behind.
Yeah, and then I
Okay.
went to Armageddon. And then I was like, I'm here. What's going on? It was a big field.
Well, okay.
All that to say, y'all, we don't know what the hell is going on with these
Yeah.
drones.
We don't know. But I
the-
shouldn't have laughed because maybe it is serious.
Yeah, we literally have
just
no
don't know.
idea. That's the question. But I think
Should we be nervous
Yes.
that we're not getting more from the government? though?
Yes.
I think we should be nervous about the multiple threats that exist
Yes.
to the United States, which are not specific to drones.
That's right.
You know, we
And
are.
I agree
apparently
with that.
We are
could
in the
also be
crosshairs of a
internal
lot of
threats.
people, and exactly. Well,
Tiff brought up
according
the phones.
to
We talked about the phones
the
last time.
phones, but also according to U.S. intelligence under the Biden administration, and under the Trump administration during his 2016 years, the biggest threat to national security were white supremacist
supremacists.
organizations.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have enemies to the north, enemies to the south,
And
enemies domestically.
That are not the ones that
the
Trump's
enemy within.
name checking,
Right.
by the way.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Enemies within, like
It
Angela
ain't
said.
Schiff and Pelosi and Obama, okay?
Yeah, but even like just individual bad actors who aim to sow chaos
Sure.
in the country, and also structural bad actors outside of the country who played a long game and have a long memory
Yeah.
of things that America has done to them. When 9/11 happened on domestic land, it was like the world stopped. And I think we have to consider a 9/11 is happening somewhere across this globe on a regular basis, from Gaza to the continent, to areas in South America, to Haiti. And so I'm like braced all the time for what might be coming down the pike when it comes to our national security. And it's not like I can't function, but it is an awareness that I think a lot of us lack.
That's the thing too. I will just say, Andrew, this is a quick point. I feel like we and I'm saying we as a collective, not on this show, but we as a collective, we also don't understand the severity of mis and disinformation.
Yeah.
Like part of, I think, the hysteria around the drone conversation is all of the rumors, all of what people are identifying with no, they don't have any background in this space to be identifying these things. You ain't even got a telescope. Ain't even got a telescope.
Yeah.
But to speak to eyewitnessing and the power of
true.
an individual experience is, for instance, most crimes in this country don't get solved without eyewitnesses. People
true.
having given testimony to what they saw at the time that may not have been significant on its own, but in the context of what's going on, it's like,
That's fair.
now this makes sense. And so I am slow to underestimate or undermine the experiences that we get, the stories that are told, the images that we see from regular everyday people, because quite frankly, it's been everyday regular people that have bust the cap off of a lot of stuff that higher powers would have preferred, frankly, to keep secret or to make sure is on. I mean, think about alien, sightings, if you will, or space and air traveling devices that we would not have known otherwise about. They could have been military experiments. It could have been training exercises. It could have been any of that, but they're not broadcasting that to us. It's people who were there can lay witness to it, took video, and then we got to see. And then guess what? The government then comes out later and says, this was going on. This was going on. That's going on. The absence of transparency, the government at least should know in this example and in many others. I don't know really. I don't know that it serves the country well for this many days to pass, for this many questions to be out there. And I think it can be instructive to an enemy, potentially.
That is exactly
that no
the point.
answers are being given. And so how long can I actually be in U.S. airspace and conduct this kind of surveillance, if it is, or otherwise, without it gaining the kind of alarm that you would typically think something like this would gain? Again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist necessarily,
hear you.
but I do know that it's been people who have blown the top off of a lot of stuff through bearing witness that we can credit for what we know today.
I just wonder
things.
about, yes, transparency with the American people and our government is something we should demand at all times.
We pay for it.
I look at the dumbing down of the American electorate that we're dealing with, and I am a bit concerned about creating mass hysteria.
But this is, I mean, the absence of knowing.
It's happening now, but I don't know what creates more. Like, let us figure exactly what this is first, but if they have none.
But if the government doesn't know, it would beg the question for me how it is that flying vehicles that are not planes were ever sanctioned in the first place. If you don't have a radar system
Technology
that can track
moves
it.
faster.
Correct, but also regulation can slow that down quite precipitously if it chooses to. It could say
technology moves faster than legislation
for
and,
sure it
and
does.
policy.
I agree with you, but I'm saying at this point, first of all, drones have been around long enough, and the fact that they are getting larger, they can be
and more sophisticated though. That's what I'm saying. Like maybe these are drones that are somehow new technology that's undetectable by the fanciest of American
all the reasons why we ought to
intelligence.
be alarmed.
Asking the question.
Well, do we believe? I'm curious from both of y'all. Do we actually believe that the American government does not know, or do they know and they're trying to manage perception and information?
Again, my lioness experience is that there's an
Not
answer.
your lioness fictional experience.
I'm just saying.
You gotta watch.
I don't know what is more
But
important,
I
art emulating life or life imitating art.
I'm going to tell you one of the things that Secretary Pete said in the interview was that there are thousands of things in the United States, like airspace, every day. And so even if you do have the technology to watch them, what is the thing that signals that it's a threat? And that, I think, is the backup. Now, not to get too far in the weeds, but like Homeland Security, staff are not at the department, but on the committee, and the amount of rigmarole around how they're spending research and development dollars and what companies are getting these RFPs and who's writing the RFPs to even discover any of this, how they're working with schools and centers of excellence to determine what the next frontier on research should be. So much of that money is wasted with government contractors that are just plugging their old friends from folks that they used to work with rather than really going into the very thing that we need. So we could be way behind the eight ball.
I also could believe that congressional committees may be on the latter end of hearing about what is.
I wouldn't say that.
No, I
we
don't.
just can't share
not
it.
wholesale. Not wholesale.
We just can't share it.
I think that the executive operates in a way that I think there is a lot of range there. And I think there is also a lot of range to what the story ultimately becomes that gets told by the executive branch.
I think that's fair, but classified documents are classified documents. And I will tell you, I was surprised to hear National Security Advisor say that these are manned aerial vehicles. I was surprised to hear that. So that means they know enough. And maybe, I don't know if that was something he disclosed that he wasn't supposed to, that was originally classified. But I'm just saying that alone says that you should have some type of ability to see.
And I don't believe that they don't. My accusation is that I think that they aren't saying. And therein lies the problem.
Well, they need a classified hearing, briefing, something on it, and hopefully it comes out.
The executive gets to
they
choose.
Declassify it. Yeah, even declassification is decided upon above our pay grade. Even though we pay for it.
It is also a possibility, maybe even a probability, that there are functions of this government that function outside of the outside of the parameters. Like perhaps the true power brokers are the people we don't know about. The people
she's reaching into her lioness experience
this
too.
is what I'm saying.
But this is true.
Yeah,
there are so many people that are people are mad at President Biden regularly for things that his very senior staff are advising him to do. Some things that he's never touching every day. He can't. The number of things that the president of the United States has to do, it is impossible for him to do that. That is why the staff is so large. That is why the cabinet is so large.
Yeah, I think what you're getting at is that there are operations that are undertaken, very important and serious ones.
Clandestine operations.
Outside the knowledge of those who we elect. The reason why we have an elected president is because we didn't want to leave it to
they operate outside politics and policy.
Absolutely,
there are quasi-governmental entities that are venture capital funds for research and development purposes. Like they literally they have codified them. They were legislated. All of that exists, and that is true. That very rarely reaches the president's desk or the cabinet until they're ready to roll out that technology.
And other things that are subterranean that we may not know. Anyway, so you have been exposed to at least part of a conversation information that can lead us down a hole.
Yes.
To a rabbit or
Lioness, y'all owe
otherwise.
them some money because
Yeah,
they really
Basically,
pub this
bring
show.
us our coins.
Yeah, bring us the coins.
Reparations.
That's for real.
Yeah.
But the show
Yeah.
is bomb.
Yeah,
It's bomb.
it's good.
Tiff,
Yes.
where are we going from here?
We're
I
going to
think we
go
gotta
to a break.
That's where we're going.
All right. So on the other side of the break, there's a viewer had a question about the Electoral College.
Okay.
And Angela, I think you're gonna answer that because
I
I
will
have
do my
questions about it
best.
too. Yeah.
Okay.
So I want to hear
Let's
that.
get it.
So we'll
Right
see you on
after
the
we
other
pay
side.
some bills.
Greetings, Native Land Podcast. What's going on, Andrew Gillum, my politically correct brother? Hey, Tiffany Cross, my peacemaking sister, and to Angela Rye, my militant sister. My name is Keith. I'm from D.C. I got a favor to ask. I need you to help me. How can I approach presenting an electoral college idea that I have to the Congress? How can you help me get on the floor of the congressional to make my case for the American people to change the electoral college from an all or none situation to a percentage, and to recalibrate how we do the per rep allocation as far as population? I think it should be based on a smaller state, which is Wyoming, and that everybody should get a rep for every 580,000 population that they have in their state. Yes, this will increase the electorals across the country for a bunch of states. My name is Keith. I appreciate you taking my video. Thank you. Be blessed.
Angela, this is clearly one for you, but I think Keith got our signs wrong. Tiffany is not a peacemaker, Keith.
How dare you?
I think she can be
Enough
sometimes.
Thank
said.
you.
I'll just end
Wait,
there.
don't break them.
Anyway.
Don't break them.
I'm trying to fix them.
Okay.
Your
Yeah,
turn.
I have questions too about what he said.
Okay, well, first and foremost, Keith, we appreciate your question. I think this is the second time you've been on the program. We are grateful for your return, NLP fam.
Yes.
I would just say that I don't know of any way to get a person, not just you, but a person onto the floor of Congress to present such proposals. I will say that in order for the Constitution to be amended, it does take an act of Congress, a supermajority of the House and the Senate, or a state convention.
States.
Yes, state convention. So I think that is a tall order. I would say more than revising the Electoral College, I think this group collectively agrees with
Obliterate it,
abolishing the thing. One thing that may be working in your favor for any proposal around Electoral College changes is the fact that Jamie Raskin is now the incoming ranking member for the Judiciary Committee, and before he was a member of Congress, he actually had a whole proposal for what should happen with the Electoral College and it being abolished.
Yeah, I have to tell you, in all honesty, I just don't see any movement in that direction until both political parties feel that they're at a disadvantage to that system. Until that happens, which Republicans are not going to be close to apt to doing because they're the ones who benefit most from the existing system. But unless they come together, there's no way you get 2/3 of the legislatures in this country to move in that direction, even toward a convention, constitutional convention, toward that kind of change. I do think that shouldn't quell our advocacy to round what's right. I just think the change is likely to happen when both parties determine it to be a political disadvantage.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that, let's say that Donald Trump looks like he's getting rid of the FBI. He gets rid of the FBI as we know it. They come together and say, we actually want to abolish the Electoral College. What else do you think they would need to do to start lining up votes of the disadvantaged, the least of these, some folks who are the people of color? Like, I think that if they start doing things that are bold like that, where it looks like, oh, all the places where y'all have been locked out or been systematically disenfranchised or targeted, we're taking these things out. I think they make some real big inroads doing that.
I don't think so.
I couldn't see it, but
Yeah.
I do think that is a sweet spot. If you have a change agent in the White House who's prepared to say, let's turn the table all the way over, and that person is able to bring historic opponents of ours to the table just by their person, people who disagree with the idea. But if you disagree with Donald Trump and you're in the Republican Party, that's an obituary, right? I mean, you're signing your death warrant if you're in elective office. I think he's moved things that way. And I think potentially, should there be convergence on an issue where we can agree change can't happen. I don't see it happening there again because the political disadvantage is too much of a downside.
Yeah, like it wouldn't benefit him. I also think for us to really change democracy, we are going to have to tap into those folks who didn't participate, who didn't vote, who felt disenfranchised. And the issue for a lot of the people who fall in that category is not the Electoral College.
No.
Like when you start getting deep into policy and like the structure, it's like, look, I don't give a shit about that. I'm talking about like my neighborhood has been dilapidated my entire life. This is my grandmama house. We still here and things look the same. So I don't know if that's I don't know if you can coalition.
But that's the connection we have to then make, right? Like the reason why we can't get none of what we want, is because this system is biased toward us. It will not bend our direction. Yeah. We have to break it.
Yeah, I agree. I think they would do better with something else other than the Electoral College if they're trying to do that. But I don't.
That's why I said I layered that in FBI because the FBI was one of the first things.
It's such a far-fetched hypothetical. I can't even imagine them doing like they benefit from that. So
and the FBI piece, I don't see standard Democrats at this time with this president being willing to change anything. I think they become apoplectic about change to an institution if it comes from Donald Trump. This is why I think Donald Trump has the potential to hit on some common cause.
That's right.
With disenfranchised communities, be it the right thing.
Yeah.
It ain't gonna be turning federal military against Americans or people who happen to be brown.
Yeah.
But if he found an issue where we could legitimately believe that the outcome will be better for us, I think there's some common cause there. Justice, I have an ear. I just am not certain if his deconstruction of the Department of Justice as we know it only is to the end that it doesn't get to target him, but that the rest of us continue to be targeted.
Yeah. There's nothing this administration could say to me that would endear trust or faith. You cannot say in one breath, I am going to turn the U.S. military against American citizens, and then the next breath, I'm going to abolish the FBI. It doesn't compute for me. It doesn't make any sense. And I think there are pockets of people in this country. We had a debate about this in our group chat about who's considered dumb and who's considered smart. And I have this debate all the time. And I'll be honest, sometimes the cheese stands alone. I might stand alone today. We have to acknowledge there are dumb people in this country. Okay,
absolutely.
There are dumb people who made dumb voting choices. Sadly, being ill-informed or uninformed is not a partisan issue. It transcends all socioeconomics. Even when Obama was getting elected, like after the election and pre-inauguration, there were so many people who, like in sound bites, would say like, oh my God, like the streets outside my house are about to be smoother and, my grandmother's neighborhood is going to look better. And I remember the Daily Show, Jon Stewart like ran some clips and I'm like, Obama ain't got nothing to do with any of that, and it's okay to acknowledge yes, people, these things in particular have made us dumber, made us dumb. I know you may disagree, but it's not just these, but everything has just made us dumber. And it's like, we have to tap into that curiosity at least. Yeah. But so you don't fall for the okie doke.
I think what I would apply is not smart or dumb to it. Cause I think the example you gave is an example of people being like blindly optimistic about the power of government and really the power of a person. Is
that because I'm saying it about Obama though? Because what about these Trump people?
It could be the same, right? I think there is a vision, there's an optimism that they have for the change they want to see happen in their lives, which is without regard to what you may ascribe to that person. Obama had the benefit of when he ran that we all projected onto, he was a whiteboard and we projected our highest hopes, dreams, possibilities. He could have almost talked about nothing but hope and change.
Yeah.
And we would have still said he is running on this issue, and this issue, because that's the kind of blind optimism I think he was afforded. And I think that exists without regard to partisanship, that people, when it comes to voting, I think it isn't so much the ignorance. There can be ignorance around the facts, but what I think there isn't ignorance around is a lived experience and whether or not you think somebody sees you.
That's right.
And if you think they do, I think we have a higher likelihood of ascribing to them the things that we think they're going to do for
Absolutely.
us.
I agree with that.
And are then wildly disappointed when that doesn't happen,
That's right.
even though he ain't ever tell you that shit from the beginning, from
Yeah,
Or
from
maybe
Jump
he
Street.
did, and he still didn't have any intent on changing it, like the prices of groceries, which we saw recently. Donald Trump completely shifted
Say
around.
he can't.
Yeah.
He ain't got no power over.
Yeah.
I will say this: I think we spend a lot of time calling folks dumb when they are smart or have chosen to use their brilliance in different ways. And I think this next question is a good example of that.
Let's see.
Hello, Native Land Pod. My name is Sean Roach Jr. I'm 23 years old. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and I go to GSU. I wanted to weigh in on the philosophical question because I'm learning and will continue to learn and truly experiencing that history will always repeat itself. Through moments of revolution and change, the Haitian Revolution, the Civil War, the Reconstruction, and the Civil Rights Movement, it has always been bloody. It has always been violence. I truly believe as not only Black people, but as citizens of the United States, we would be kidding ourselves to not understand that this nation has been built upon violence. Our freedom has been contingent on violence. And honestly, violence has been a necessity in freedom. The oppressor has always had the upper hand, and the oppressed has always been late to the party. But once the oppressed come, we shut it down. It's just gonna get a little crazy. And what we have to also understand is that the oppressors have built an entire base who has been training their children to be comfortable with guns since out the womb. So we have to be prepared and we have to understand.
To me, this is about what people choose to use their brilliance on. Like, there are a lot of folks who are the proletariat who were like, oh, they just don't get it. They just don't know. Our podcast is above their head. We're too in the weeds. But they can break down an entire GNX Kendrick Lamar album. They can rock with somebody who is a Pulitzer Prize winning genius. They can figure it out. So you can figure out anything you put your time and your mind to and your energy to. I'm just saying he got a whole theory about why the violent take by force, to use a scripture. A whole theory. I'm not calling him dumb, by the way. I'm just saying, like, we use these.
We use our knowledge, our brilliance toward
how we want to.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying it's not that people aren't. It's that they haven't chosen to lean in a certain way, or they haven't chosen our particular path, or don't have our particular POV either by experience or because lack of research or whatever. But to me, it was just an interesting, okay, you got a whole theory about why this went down this way. I still don't support
violence
killing
as a
people.
means to the
Well,
end.
because you said this before when we were talking about, is it safer in the shallow or the deep? And I kept saying, like, you know, whatever examples I kept giving, you were like, this is the third time that you've like equated deep with like a certain level of intellect, you know? And I was like, oh, that is true. Like, I didn't mean to do that. I think this might be a little different. To be clear, I like this man's, like, I like what he's saying.
I do too.
So we're just using him as an example to make a point about where people, because he's clearly using his brilliance in a way, like,
He's very
historically,
smart.
like, he just dropped a whole word right there.
Even his last question, like, he's a very smart student. Like, I get it. Yeah.
I will still be the cheese that stands alone and say, yes, there are people who have brilliance in all areas. There are people, like, you know, I've said there are people who can name every senator on Capitol Hill. I don't think they brilliant. Like, you done worked up there 20 years. Yeah, you ought to be able to name every senator up there. Like, right. Sure. That's information. That's a muscle memory that you have the ability to collect information. Right, right. That's not where I'm saying brilliance. To me, curiosity that's enough right there. Curiosity is enough right there for me to say, at least you are curious enough to care about something. What I'm seeing more and more, people lack a curiosity to care about anything. It is the selfie generation. It is the generation that I can build an empire to myself because social media has democratized everything, including who gets to believe they are a celebrity. It is the generation of I care more about my lashes than I do about policies that impact my life. And when I see that, I confront it when I've interacted with it, when I've had conversations with it. And I'm just like, this is the continuing dumbing down of the American people. It's not because I don't even think if you didn't vote, you're not smart. I don't think that. Like, I completely acknowledge there are so many intellectual people. Somebody who I think is so intelligent and has such interesting perspectives and things to say, because I've spoken to him privately and I watch him publicly, is Plies. Like,
For
I know
sure.
Plies has
There's no doubt.
some silliness on his show, but when that brother starts talking about policy and things that he cares about, I'm like, that's a good ass point. Like, some of the things he's saying is things that I had not thought about. And I know that's specific to politics, but there are other things that people can talk to me about that I just find them so like, you're curious. Like, you've taught me something.
The cleverness of it is the ability to take, because he doesn't exit his lane. He's still showing, and not just him, there are others. Cardi B, when she was talking about healthcare.
Cardi B.
When she talked about her, I was just like, holy like she had
Social
me
Security.
because she took what is largely complex.
Yes.
With many layers to it and went dead ass to the point.
Yes.
And people who do that, I think that is a skill. Now, what I also think is the value judgment on positive, negative, smart, dumb, those sort of paradigms that we find ourselves is probably less helpful in trying to understand, I think,
Well, it
our
sounds
human
mean.
experience.
It sounds mean.
Well, it can sound mean, but I just mean, I
Yeah.
think in trying to really understand what people are, where they're coming from, I think it's less useful in the sense that I remember as a mayor come into contact with people who wanted me to get their Social Security checks. They want me to, solve this problem. And I'm thinking, now this ain't got nothing to do with local government, this, that, and the third. Now that didn't mean that we didn't activate to try to get them in connection with the right people. So they were absent certain knowledge about the process, but their need was very clear. And that's sort of how I've started to see most people is people activate from a place of need, what their need and what their want is. And even our ask for people to be curious, I hate to repeat this line, but is also a bit of a luxury in the sense that most people, time, attention, effort is occupied by the thing that concerns them, confronts them the most. And most of those things are really basic in nature. But basic doesn't mean accessible.
Yeah.
Right? It is
Like
just
what?
basic.
Like, give me an example.
So, for instance, I'm mostly concerned about my children, the kids they're coming in contact with, how the hell I'm going to deal with these cell phones and their tablets right now from the standpoint of just negotiating. And I realize that even what I'm right now articulating as a really big key concern is very different than how somebody else's more basic function or need might be. So I would say when I refer to a more basic need that someone would have, it's Maslow's hierarchy, not whether my kid's tablet is going to drive them off in a direction to become awful humans and who they're being taught by that are not me and their mom and their teachers. But as far as I'm concerned, if you debase that and you delegitimize that, then I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Because you can't see me first. And I think that's where we are with the larger public. If we delegitimize certain things, then anything we say following is of no sense and no importance because we haven't seen them first. And I think that that
happened with the election and the economy.
For sure.
And, like in like an alarming way. So anybody who even had curiosity turned off.
It's snuffed out.
Like, you telling me this economy is great. My eggs are $11.
Hell yeah.
This is an area where I'm ignorant. I can't really always tell you what the economy is. And I would argue most people can't.
Because it's personal.
Right. Like, what is the economy? And most
it's
people
what
can't
I can
answer
afford
that.
They were
and how it makes me feel.
The economy is the markets.
That's
For
right.
sure.
Right.
There was
That's
a
definitely
macro economy issue versus a micro economy issue.
Sure.
And there was a complete blind spot by the people that we vote for on the micro economy
total
issues.
collapse.
And speaking of being
It's a total
micro,
collapse.
we're going to
Time
be
for a
extra
break.
micro and take a break.
Break out. And that connection is really important. We lost it. Getting up here talking about what the best economy, the highest value we navigated.
I don't think we were doing that.
No, not us.
Yeah,
I'm talking about
them.
But we also didn't call it out in the moment. I just think it was an important point you just brought out about the blind spot that happened there, and the fact that none of us I don't think we called it out as loudly and proudly as we should have in real time.
Yeah.
Because you telling me how good we navigated COVID
Yes.
versus other developed nations is of no
when somebody
consequence.
still died in your family.
Mm-hmm.
When you still
or even
got long
economically,
COVID.
how
Or
you're saying that we rebounded quicker and faster and didn't go to the depth
But
of
my
recession
friend who got that
as
PPP
others.
loan is now facing prosecution because they just
Across
followed.
the
They
board.
listened to somebody who told them.
Across
right,
the
like
board.
everybody that got PPP loans and did it unethically or illegally didn't do that on purpose. Some of them were told that they could get
Certain
this support
things.
that's available to them. Yeah,
Ignorance to the law, unfortunately,
is no defense.
right.
It is no defense.
Exactly. And I have a lot of ignorance to laws, and it's
Some
terrifying.
willful on my part. No, I'm joking.
Well, I mean, for me, having come from below the poverty line, and then you start getting checks that are, big,
Yeah.
and ain't no taxes coming out,
Yeah. Yeah, and
even
then-
when, I'll tell y'all, when I first started getting checks and taxes were coming out, I had that mentality that I'm not paying this mortgage until I absolutely have to pay this mortgage.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pay this light
So
bill
true, I know
until
that.
it's absolutely time. In my 20s, I think I waited until, if it was due on the 15th, I'm going to pay it on the 15th, because the mentality was, anything could pop off at any minute.
Yeah, the money
and
is
I
safer
might
in your
need this
pocket
money.
up
Right.
until the point it ain't.
Right. And if I got to
that's the
choose,
savings you have, it's safer right here.
That's right.
precisely.
That's right.
And if I
That's
got to
right.
choose between helping my mom with something
And
or
paying
paying
this.
this light bill, I'll light some candles to make sure that my mom is
Or
going to be okay.
I'm going to get enough grace with the company. They're going to give me
Yes.
15 more days, and by then I'm going to turn another miracle.
Yeah.
And at
Which
the
is
end of that 15 days, I mailed the check. I don't know what
There
happened.
it is. Or
And then
something.
another
Or
15
some-
days,
there's a way to
like,
work that
okay,
system.
I'm going to come down there, but I got a
Yeah.
flat tire. I'm
Right.
paying it for, like you
Yeah.
learn to
Yeah,
rob
this is-
Peter to
yeah,
pay Paul
for
when you
sure.
have to.
For
I do
sure.
want to be clear. I'm not talking about, because I hear you. I hear your point. I'm not talking about people with access. I'm talking about privileged people who choose ignorance.
Like who?
For
Give me a
sure,
name.
their choices.
I'm not going to give you a name, but
you're
I do
right.
know some.
But the more
and you do too.
resources you have, the greater the luxury is to
And that
do
is the part that's
for
frustrating
sure.
to me, because I listen to people and it's like, and I know I have ignorances. I'll tell you somebody who I feel like he frequently talks over my head and I make myself watch him over and over. John Oliver. John
Smart.
Oliver, yes, he's a comedian, but he's really smart from a global perspective. I have to watch his shows 2 or 3 times to understand it.
I find that
Some
most
of these
comedians are
so
quiet,
Really
brilliant.
brilliant.
Yes.
Yeah.
God, you
Yeah,
have
the
to
things
be.
he talks about, and he dumb, and I always tell people, dumb it down for me. I learned that way. Dumb it, put it in the most basic terms for me. I'll even say, explain it to me like you explain it to a 5-year-old. I don't have no ego around that. Like, just give it to me the way I can take it. I'm talking about people who have access to all of that, and you want to, post your I'm voting sticker because it's cool and it's cute.
Absolutely.
But you ain't really out here in this game.
Yeah.
I'll say, Angela, so many people, young people, but even like peers, I think they have a desire to do what you do, and I'll ask them, well, what does Angela do? What are you trying to do that Angela does? They have a desire to be the exterior, but they do not have the desire to do the work. They don't have the desire to be up calling people, asking them to sign on to this legislation. They don't have the desire to door knock. They don't have the desire to work on Capitol Hill when it ain't glamorous, but they do have the desire to walk on the red carpet, to date who you dated, to look how you look.
They can
and
have them.
it's over.
Chill out.
Anyway, but that is the thing they desire.
They open
and,
for business.
and I can say that was never your desire.
At all.
Yeah.
Your desire
all.
wasn't to
You never
be like
named that.
known, but your desire. You didn't want to become the governor of Florida because you want a
everybody
private
knows.
driver,
Not a chance.
and because you wanted like to live in the governor's mansion.
Look,
in
you should have heard
service
my wife when
business.
we were trying to talk to the state security about what life was supposed to look like. She's like, I'm driving my own kids to school. I don't know what they're talking about. I'm like,
Right.
You were like, Jay.
no, I'm like, there are other considerations here, but these were things I hadn't thought about. So
Yeah.
you're right. The
Those
fact
are the
that
people I'm
that
talking
wasn't
about.
an ambition.
When I say dumb,
Yeah.
like those are the people I'm talking about, because it's like you just out here just in
But
the selfish
even that,
generation.
like, I don't know if I want to, like,
Y'all just don't like the word dumb.
I
because
don't.
I think it's.
And I can say- I can say it's-
you know
value.
what it is?
I
At
don't think it's
the
a value
end of the
that
day,
you're
I'm
trying
saying
to
it's the same
ascribe.
thing.
it flattens nuance, and I think what bothers me the most about it, even when I say it, it is late. It's a lazy approach for me because now the same curiosity that you want them to use, we're not using about them.
That's true.
I do use that curiosity.
How?
I probe. I ask people all the time. Well, where did you get that
you
from?
do
Where
ask
did you hear that
questions.
from?
He does do
I
that.
am
You do
curious
ask
about
questions.
people.
That's legit.
But I'm saying like now there's a blanket dumb, right? Let's say there's a blanket dumb attached to them. There may be other reasons. Like maybe somebody said they wanted to do a carpet because when they was little, their daddy told them they was never going to be nothing. And that was their way to show them that they were going to be something. I'm not saying that is the look at her face.
I mean, because I don't know
It also
could be.
That's
could
your
also have
emotional
grown-
trauma. That doesn't absolve you from the lack of curiosity and the lack of desire to do the work to do that.
But
carpet.
maybe
No,
they
but
just don't know. Maybe the
no,
privilege is we know
No,
there's work.
they
Maybe
know.
they don't know
I
there's
They
work.
know.
I don't even have to. I don't think we have to be that graceful about
Gracious.
graceful or gracious. But
She was
graceful.
graceful in her graciousness.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't think we have to. I don't think we have to come up with reasons as to why people make the choices they make, because I think part of our curiosity has to be that they have a reason for. I mean, we have to make allowance for
Yeah.
the fact that there may be a reason for why this person is so obsessed with becoming the next Snuffleupagus on the internet that
I do want them lashes though. Them
yeah,
lashes was
not,
bad.
I'm
not all
popping my
them, not all
lashes
them,
today.
not all of the lashes. It's a lot.
Yes.
It's a lot to have to deal with. But as you talk about, could we, what about their earlier life experience could have led them to the value that I'm going to place on my brilliance and what I contribute is going to be on my exterior. And you can't read what's in my head. Very few people have value for what's in my head.
Yeah.
And so I've now put value on these sorts of things, and that choice is a conscious one.
Yeah.
And not an unconscious one. I just hate folks
That's
moving
the way
around
what
in
you just
life
said is
without
how
some.
that was the best way to say it.
I just want to
a
tell
conscious choice, not an unconscious choice,
For
but a conscious
sure.
choice to remain in a space of ignorance. And I myself have made that conscious choice before, which is not a good
After
thing.
the elections, I almost make it unilateral around elections that are
Yeah.
lost.
You
As I'm going
guys.
to make the conscious choice not to plug in.
I'm
I
going to tell
don't
you
wanna
where you
know.
plugged in. I laugh at those of you who said, this is going to be a 45-minute podcast. Because no, it is not. And so now.
But we are at the 45 minutes, so we can say thank you for listening.
But we
No,
This has
we
been
got
the-
more stuff.
I'm
We got
joking,
time.
I'm joking.
Nick can tell us
She's
when.
the main
Well,
one.
because I was the main one saying we were running out of time, but I spoke with
appreciate
Nick.
this question, by the way.
and we are okay for a few more minutes.
I appreciate us
Thank
deepening
you,
into
boss.
this.
Welcome.
I appreciate
Welcome
us,
home.
no pun intended, deepening, our
Yeah.
thinking and our
I
talking
like it.
here.
I think it's so important for us to do this because
And
it gives
organically.
people permission to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And the thing that I love about y'all, I hate to say this all the time over and over again, but it's so true. I love that you will stretch me outside of my comfort zone.
Same.
That it like you will push me to be like, do we really need this? Is this dumb? Is this like I want that nuance. I think it's so important because there are folks dealing with this at home,
For
at
sure.
work. Oh my God, at work on the other side of this inauguration, I feel so bad for folks.
Yeah.
Like I mean, it's gonna be really brutal.
For sure. I wonder, is there a takeaway on this conversation that we can leave listeners
Well,
with, or
I
are
wanna
our
be-
perspectives
or
the
maybe
takeaway?
never leave it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is an ongoing conversation.
Yeah.
I'm sure y'all gonna drag me in the comments. Probably have a lot of things to say about my thoughts on this, but I do want to be clear that because someone is incurious and intelligent and not an intellectual doesn't mean you can't be a good person, kind-hearted people.
All that, sure.
And I will say some people I know who are so unplugged have the ability to be kind-hearted. Like sometimes I wake up angry
I get
because
it.
I
A lot
know
of
too
days.
much.
I
Right.
get
Because
it.
A
I
lot of
know
days.
too much. And I know after the election, even right now, I'm not as plugged in and I feel less angst.
Yeah.
I just don't have the luxury of living in a space of ignorance forever. But I do try to understand those people. And when I say like, there's a lot of dumb people out there, it's not like you're dumb so you don't deserve anything.
Yeah.
You're dumb so you don't deserve to know me or talk to me.
Sure.
You're dumb so you don't deserve to have a life of safety and, even wealth if you want it. But it is frustrating because your comfortable ignorance makes it so much harder for the rest of us who really want to do the work. And I'm offended at people who say, I want to be like Angela Rye, but you really don't want to, like you want the glory without knowing the full story.
Sure.
Or even people who say, I want to do what you do. And it's like, what do I do? Or people who think I was on TV giving opinions, or when I first got my show, I remember a lot of people saying, I want to do that. Like, you so lucky. Ain't no luck over here. No. Like, I didn't work there. I've worked in every newsroom, did every shitty assignment, like worked for 20 plus years on the been working for 20. I want to do what you do. I want to be I Really? You want to run for SGA president? You want to be doing this in the third grade?
Right.
There are folks who say, I have a friend who says, Sean, y'all know Sean Pittman. He says, when you all make it look so easy, everybody thinks they can do it.
Yes.
And
I want them to
that's true, by the way, important. For across a lot of fields. A lot of folks look like they are effortless in their brilliance.
But that's also because it's a calling,
Yeah.
I think it's a calling. I also think that these people have worked really, really hard. And guess what? Their highlight reel doesn't begin to tell the fact that their overnight story began decades ago.
That's right.
Right? That this thing, whatever it is that you are complimenting at this point and wanting to emulate, didn't begin at the moment you discovered who I was.
No. Yeah. It began 10,000 hours ago. At least.
However, right? Yeah. But not now. And if I had a frustration, it is not around the willful ignorance. The willful ignorance is very frustrating because you know better. Mm-hmm. My mama said, you know better, you do better. You know better and you chose not to do better.
Right.
But it is really reserved for those for those individuals who y'all are, I would just describe it as opportunistic in a way, in such a way that you can absolutely turn off your sympathy, your acknowledgement, your whatever of this whole big thing that you know exists.
They know better and do worse.
You do worse, right?
Right.
So for opportunistic reasons, you have now turned off.
It's a whole bunch of them hoes.
Yep.
It's a whole bunch of them hoes.
It's frustrating. And I'm seeing it now in Florida. We just had this one, Democrats are already at the bottom with political representation. Gets elected from a Democratic district and has just switched to a Republican Party.
Turncoat.
Right? And then you had all these others out there caping, repeating stuff that not only, if you were honest about it, would embarrass yourself, but it's embarrassing to your mama and your daddy.
Yeah.
But you're out here trifling because there's a check on the other side for you. That burns me. That level of optimism burns me.
I love this conversation because it was all organic.
Me too.
So I know we didn't get the chance to talk about what's next for Vice President Harris.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the first topic when we come back.
Yeah, that's
right. And we'll save that for January.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you guys how you're planning on maintaining your peace. Because buckle up. 2025 is going to be a lot. Angela, especially for you, everything you're going through with your mom, just the politics, Andrew, for you.
Life.
I mean, I was with a friend of mine and his 3 kids and I was like, ain't no way. Like I cannot. Anytime one had to go to the bathroom, he would have to get all of them, scoop them up and take them. I take that
anytime after one goes, comes back to the next one. Daddy, I have to go.
But they're little, so they all have to go at the same time, and it was stressing me out, me and everything I have going on. So I'm just curious how y'all are playing. What is your plan to curate and protect your peace?
Angela, you're our guru of health and well-being. What's up? You at least tell it. You tell us. I don't know how much of it you practice.
Yeah, that's what I said, because Angela talks about it, but I'm like, how much of that are you really doing?
Yeah.
Well, I have asked my therapist, I was like, I need to go back to weekly therapy sessions.
Oh, you had stopped?
Yeah. It wasn't on purpose.
No
it was just
one
like
does weekly.
It was so like crazy with like our schedule. It just was impossible to schedule. So I was supposed to start today. And speaking of schedule, because we decided to shoot for a full day, I couldn't do it today. So I'm going to start next Monday. But therapy for sure. For the rage that I'm feeling about this election, the betrayal by the country, my own frustrations with just like places where I feel like I shouldn't be, like I just want to come to terms with that and accept it. And I think the acceptance alone will quiet some of the rage. I'm not there yet, honestly. Like I still am like, what if it was stolen? Or whatever else, or like why with my mom? I just feel like this time of the year, last Christmas, we were gearing up for the first Christmas without my grandmother being here anymore. She died at 105 the February prior, and her birthday's on Christmas. So we did a big Christmas celebration for her. But my mom also wanted a big Christmas because she'd just been diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer. This Christmas, we were coming into my mom being completely whole and free, and now coming back into, well, now we have to do a liver biopsy to see if it might have spread. And the anger I feel to the system was like, why wouldn't you do a whole body scan without telling her she's clear, go to rehabilitation? So the thing that has been most joyful for me in that is the moments where she's just like, and I'm so glad you moved back home permanently and not going back and forth. And that just feels precious. And what has been humbling to me about it is for everybody who I couldn't understand prioritizing the election as the most important thing. The moment things shifted with my mom's health, I got it. The moment it shifted, I got it. And so it deepened me into compassion for people who it might not be their parent, it might be their child. It might not be their child, it might be them. You know, it may have been complete destruction on the other side of a hurricane. And we're like, why couldn't you just pony up and get back home? Like, it just humbled me. So I think that's where I'm at, just like tapping in with staying human, staying humble, staying available and open and accessible to perspectives and lived experiences that are completely different from mine. I feel like that's the only way to get to the other side.
So real. You know, I
disrupts my peace a little bit.
I'm sorry.
Not you.
I feel like that might be where the peace is on the other
If
side.
I gotta listen to a bunch of foolishness like that, because that's gonna disrupt my peace.
No,
I want to hear you. I'll get to
I
I'll
don't
save
know
you for
what I
last.
said when foolishness.
No, you're saying you're staying open-minded to listen to other perspectives, and it's like
lived
I can
experiences
listen.
like that.
The suspending of judgment
Yes.
is where the peace will come in.
Yes.
When you
That's
suspend
better.
with the judgment, I think then you're not let up or let down by what the person then has to say. It is just what they
It
have
just
to say.
is.
It's just what it is.
It
It
just
is what it
is.
is. And I think for me, you know, early in couples counseling, you know, Jay would, mention often to the counselor how, you know, I would just sort of in fights, just sort of reserve myself, like not say a whole bunch and let her do the yelling at me and then this, that, and the third. And I remember the therapist saying that is still a reaction. That even when you're in these fights, these heated moments where, you know, maybe the person you're arguing with is yelling, screaming, you know, looking like they're about to rip your face off, your choice either not to meet them at that same energy, but you may be meeting them at a different level of energy. And what your level of energy may be reading is dismissal.
Or indifference.
Or all these other things. So you are having a reaction. And just because you may not be emoting that reaction doesn't mean you're not having one. And I think what that leads to, let me finish the thought, what that leads to is these explosive moments where I have a real big reaction, real big feeling. And it isn't that moment that I'm dealing with currently that is causing it. It is the buildup of all those moments where my choice of a reaction was, okay, all right. And then that thing is through and over with because I know I'm angry. I know that there is a stirring in me, even at the point that I am choosing to keep it under wraps.
We know when
and
you're
that's
angry
not helpful
too.
to my. That's not helpful to my
Spirit.
My physical health.
At all.
It's bad for your physical health. It's not helpful to me mentally in some ways because I never allow myself constructive release. The release is almost going to, when it comes, is going to be one that's explosive and likely not for the moment that I'm in. The reaction is not going to meet the moment that I'm in. It's going to be explosive to the moment that I'm in. So in this conversation around sort of how are you better taking care of yourself, mental and so forth, for me, it's going to be trying to say the thing when I'm feeling it. And that still doesn't mean it has to be loud and explosive, but it could be a release rather than a bottling up. And that I think that will help me health-wise, personal health-wise, but also my mental state as well. And trying to be as present as I can in these moments, which again, they say with kids that the days are long, but the years are short.
Wow.
As I look at my daughter skyrocketing in her height and my son, having intelligent conversations, as he's playing the Game Boy over the phone, I'm listening to them lightweight eavesdropping. And I'm like, well, hey, I'm proud of you. Good thought. That kind of thing. But that just in a flicker of the light that they'll be grown and gone, right? And so that will bring me, I know that there's added peace to that as well.
I need to tell you real quick, just real quick, because you brought up physical health. On this physical health moment, and even talking about my mom, thinking about my mom, I am overdue. I'm just being accountable to the NLP fam. Overdue for a mammogram, but I have one that I need to get scheduled. I'm doing a colonoscopy. They say that we don't need them until we're 50. The devil is a liar. That cancer is spreading at much younger ages. We should do that. Then that's all because I went to a physical, got my physical, and those are the things they recommended. So I highly encourage everybody to do that. Also saw cardiologist Dr. Puma in New York. Shout out to Leonard for the plug. I was like, I'm worried because my LDL cholesterol levels are high in these full lab panels, which I also understand is a privilege. So I'm acknowledging that. It's not my cholesterol that's a problem. It's my very consistent high blood pressure that's a problem. So it's pre-hypertension. So in the midst of us trying to protect our peace, there is a physical reason why we have to protect our peace.
Yeah, I think that's what both you guys said is so good. You know what you said though that struck me most about judgment, suspending judgment. And I think I don't believe people when they say don't have judgment. Like, I think we just judge maybe different things. I know I judge myself the harshest. So when you were saying that, I was like, who do I judge? And it's like, oh, me. Like, I judge myself the harshest for sure. And so I think my peace has to come internally. Like, I don't believe in I'm so angry and not having a response. I was very angry this month at someone, and to me it's like, well, don't even say anything. Like, they don't deserve your response. I'm like, to me that's ego. Like, if I have all this rage inside me and it needs to be posited somewhere. Where is the dignity in I'm just gonna walk away silently and not say anything? Like, no, I want you to know I think you're a shitty person for doing this thing, and I want you to see the pain that you caused. I want you to see the trust you violated. I want you to hear it. And when you don't do that, I mean, it produces cortisol in your body, which causes inflammation, which causes illness, And so I think what I'm concluding is I have to curate spaces around me that do not invite toxicity and be responsible for that. I don't owe anybody my peace, whether we're blood related or not. I can cut off a relationship that doesn't service either of us. All of those things. My phone, as y'all know, I've been on my phone a lot lately, and I have felt it. I'm looking at puppy videos for an hour, or these vegan videos, and it's like, you could be reading, you could be writing, you could be walking. So really trying to do better with that. I was doing well for a while. I'm not now, and it's like, just stay away when you want to. You don't owe anybody your peace. You don't owe anybody an explanation. Like, you grown. Like, you were off the grid for 24 hours, and that's what it was. And then letting the tears flow when they need to. My therapist keeps telling me I have a problem with tears. I don't feel like I do. But she says, no, like, you like to talk it through and you try to like get it together. But that's because I'm paying for the session. I could cry at home. Let's get to this. Let me keep talking.
I ain't paying to cry for you, bitch.
Like, let me swallow this and just get out what I'm going to say. I'm going to cry when I leave.
That's so funny.
So, I haven't figured it all out. But those are things that I'm thinking about, in 2025, how can I go? And putting things in their proper context, because I'm also very regimented. I'm very detailed. And so had you said today, like, hey, guys, we need to push taping time back, or we're going to tape Tuesday instead of that would send me I'm like, my anxiety is through the roof now. And I plan my days meticulously. I even put on there, like, from 9 to 12, I'm writing, and so trying to manage that. With anybody, if you say, hey, let's meet at 4:00 and I'm there at 4:00 and you show up at 4:20, I got an attitude, because I'm like, I could have sent that email. I could have done laundry. I could have done, the things I was rushing to get here. So all these little things just seem to be eating away at my peace. So I don't know. I'm figuring it out. You guys gave some good input, but those are just some things that I'm trying to do. But I'm open to suggestions.
I love that.
I'm going to try to contribute to your peace and be more on time this year then.
Well, I was late today, so
You were,
Yeah,
but
I don't
ready.
even mean this. Like that can be,
I'd be late.
No, but that's like mildly
Well,
frustrating.
it used
What
to
would
be more late when I had to
majorly
leave the house.
frustrating is if you're like, Tiff, let's get something to eat. Let's meet at 4. And I'm sitting there at the spot, and you ain't there at 4 o'clock.
But I mean that too. I mean for the podcast and generally, I'm gonna try to be
because I
more
don't
on
feel
time.
like you be showing up late when we together. But probably because we leaving together. You've been making me late. So yeah, that's good.
They just late people, y'all.
No, I try to
But
be
if
on
you
time.
have-
I
I'm
try to be on
joking.
time.
But your point where you were was you were inviting other feedback, I think, from folks if they
I
have
want to hear
ideas.
from how
hear
other
too.
people are maintaining
Yeah.
their peace.
Tell me you're going to
recommendations.
get your mammogram and your colonoscopies.
Yes.
I want to hear about that and your
I didn't know
physicals.
about the colon. I've never had a colonoscopy.
I've never had one either. I mean, you should
Highly
do one
recommended
too.
for black men,
Did
of
you do
course.
it?
Yeah.
I will.
Why don't
You
we
never
all
had
do them
one?
together?
No, because
I mean,
they're
not in the
recommended at
same
50.
moment.
Yeah.
You guys, let's all get them.
Yes,
We'll
I'm
broadcast it
committed.
live on the
No, you won't
podcast.
see
All
that.
of us together.
No, I think I'll keep my
You won't
booty
see
to
none of
myself.
that.
But I would like to say that I think we're all committing to doing that.
We are.
Going into, can we commit to the first quarter of the new year?
Yeah. My doctor can get me in, yeah.
Look at Tiff.
Well, because I don't know for other reasons, which I
Okay.
will share offline.
Okay. Okay. All right.
You heard?
Well, we going to try.
Yeah, we'll try.
I'm gonna do mine.
I'm not afraid to do it.
Yeah.
Like I want to.
Yeah.
It's some other issues.
I understand. All right.
Y'all, this has been
is a good- this is
really
one of my
awesome episode. We should take a breath together when we're not recording.
Nam yo ho renge kyo, nam yo ho renge kyo, nam yo ho renge kyo. Y'all don't know that.
Peace be still. I know that.
Peace be still,
That
too.
sound like
That's
Tina,
one.
also
That's-
known as Angela Bassett.
Yes, that was Nam Yo Ho Renge Kyo, Tina Turner. What's love got to do with it?
What? No.
Remember she was arguing with
are-
Nessa. She was talking about Lawrence Fishburne. She's like, don't do that, Jackie.
How many
don't do that,
days
Jackie.
to the election?
Andrew don't know how many days it is.
Tell
to
us
the
how
election.
many,
Tell
Angela.
me how many.
I don't know
days.
either.
Oh, how about this? There are 684 days to the
Wowzers.
midterm elections, y'all. As always, we thank you for being a community with us during today's episode. I thought it was particularly special. It's special always being with these two. We also want to remind you to please rate, review, subscribe to Native Land Pod, which you can find anywhere you listen to your podcast. Follow us on social media. It makes it really, really easy, by the way, when you become a subscriber for other folks to find us on those various platforms. So do subscribe. We are Andrew Gillum.
Tiffany Cross.
And
Angela Rye with the gumbling tummy.
yes, insides
Did
reading
you hear it?
themselves.
Nope.
No, but mine was loud too.
Okay, mine
We
is
all
going,
grumbling.
mine is going
I'm
off.
starving.
It sounds like
Let's go
thunder
eat.
in the
And on
south.
that note, we about to go chow down, and we want to say again to you, welcome home as always.
Welcome home, y'all.
Thank you for joining the natives. Intentional with the info on all of the latest. Rod Gillum and Cross connected to the statements that you leave on our socials. Thank you sincerely for the patience. Reason for your choice is clear. We're so grateful. Took the oath to execute roles. Yeah, faithful. Preserve, defend, and protect the truth. Even if painful. Welcome home to all of the natives. We thank you.
Welcome home, y'all.
What's
Welcome
up,
home.
sis?
Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice Media. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.